Our grandparents built this country on books and the Bible. Now we're raising a generation that can't even read a cereal box. This is planned. This is a strategic plan from the Democratic Party. This is about obedience. This is about getting them, our children, to believe what the liberals and Democrats want them to believe. Not what is right, but what it is that they want them to believe. People, I'm on a mission to get our country back. And if you're with me, smash that subscribe button and come with me to the rest of the story.
Elections are on Tuesday. You're going to need this lesson. Electoral College 101. Do we got a pen? Do we got paper? Do we got our thinking caps on? Because this one's going to smart. United States' first DEI program, and then all of a sudden, everybody has problems with DEI and inclusion. All right. First, we got to draw the United States. Now, this isn't an easy thing to do, and some of you are like, Joanna, that's not how you draw Texas. Listen, I'm doing the best we can. I don't know if the panhandle deserves all of my attention. I do enjoy this mitten, though. Just going to do a little Wisconsin, a little Minnesota, a little jaggedy thing all the way back over. Not so bad. Remember that I am Canadian. Let's throw in a couple states for fun, right? We got Washington over here. I'm going to put a number there. Don't worry about the number. I'll explain it in a little minute. We have a California here. Don't complain about how small my California is. We got 54. You got a little Texas. 40. Whew! Texas is big. Texas is big. You got Wisconsin. You got Minnesota. Wisconsin, 10. Minnesota, 10. I really do like the Twins. Can't forget Michigan. Why? Because it's really, really cute, and it's a mitten. You got New York over here somewhere at 28. You got Florida with Mickey Mouse down here at 30. I think we have a little bit of a representation. Now let's jump right into the mess, shall we? All right, here we go. In 1787, the United States writes its Constitution. Some of you are going to say 1776. That's not the Constitution. That's the Declaration of Independence. We're not just talking about Jefferson here. Now, the first family fight you all had as a country was how are you going to choose your president? Now, here's the biggest problem. The North and the South were equal populations. However, the South had a boatload of slaves that elevated their population, but they wouldn't let them vote. So the problem was, when they were going to do by popular vote, the North was going to clean sweep the elections and always choose the president. You think if your roots were slavery, you'd want to change some things about your Constitution, but oh no, you want to hold tight to everything.
I apologize. I can't watch that anymore. She was explaining the electoral votes to her children. That was a DEI hire, and that's what she was explaining. See, it's not what's right. It's what they feel that it should be. People, there's been a lot of mistakes in this country, and there has been. But you know what? If you don't make mistakes, you're never going to learn anything. And to sit there and try to get these kids to hate America, to teach them things that aren't true, to teach them in their beliefs. People, they should be going to school to learn arithmetic, how to read, how to interact with other people, common sense, to love their country. They have these white liberal kids feeling guilty because they're white. People, we're the United States. Black, white, brown, we're all together. We all get along. It's the Democrats that are pushing these narratives to these kids in school. And they're not learning anything that they're supposed to be learning. Joe Biden pumped in $122 billion into the federal school program. $122 billion. Do you know where most of that went? DEI training. That's where most of this went. It was a business to the Democrats. That's why they drew their hairy canary when they found out that he was closing it down. When Trump shut it down, he found out the test grades in the United States, one of the wealthiest countries in the world, that had the lowest scores in arithmetic and reading than most all other countries. It was a business for the Democrats. That's all it was a business. They don't want these kids to learn. They don't want them to be smart. They want them to be sheep, like these liberals that are out here they're protesting, and they can't even spell what they're trying to protest correct on a sign. And here's some more information for you.
Greg, I don't know if people at home realize, but they might not be surprised at this point that the Department of Education spent $1 billion of our tax dollars promoting DEI in K through 12, and 60% of kids in America cannot read at the right level.
This is a right-wing campaign that's going to be racist, misogynistic against the vice president. They want to call her a DEI president or DEI candidate. She has more experience than Trump and J.D. Vance combined times a million, right? So these are just racist dog whistles. Whenever you hear DEI, I want you to think about the N-word. I want you to think about racial slurs. That's what they actually mean.
To me, the values of diversity, equality, inclusion are literally, and that's not kidding, the core strengths of America. That's why I'm proud to have the most diverse administration in history. It taps into the full talents of our country. And starts at the top with the vice president.
First of all, I mean, DEI stands for diversity, equity, inclusion, right? So to me, we start by thinking, okay, what's the opposite of those things? The opposite of diversity is uniformity, right? Mm-hmm. The opposite of equity is inequity. Mm-hmm. And the opposite of inclusion is exclusion. And I don't know a lot of people who think we'd be better off if our lives had more uniformity, inequity, and exclusion, right? But I think that the part of why people have questions about it that I respect is they're not sure if they're worried about fairness, right? So to me, when you talk about some of these policies, the idea is to make sure everybody gets a seat at the table, especially if you know there have been systematic ways of keeping people from getting a seat at the table over the years, sometimes based on their race, on their religion, on their income, on their background, any number of reasons, sexuality, right? Like a lot of different reasons. And it's about making sure that what we do going forward is fair. And this can be an economic issue too. You look at something like redlining. A lot of homeowners, families, would-be homeowners, especially black families, couldn't get homes in certain neighborhoods where the property value started to go up. So even if that happened to a family, I don't know, 50 years ago,
See, people, this is what they're teaching the children in school. This is what they were. They're still out there doing it in the Democratic cities, New York, Detroit. That's basically where I'm from. Trust me, they're not teaching these kids how to read or write. But these still pushing this in the Democratic cities. Okay, it's about black people can't afford to buy a house. Why? I live in a decent neighborhood. I got quite a few black neighbors, great neighbors. They don't feel that way. But that's what they go and they preach. And they preach it nonstop. They're the ones that keep the racism going. They don't know when to stop. And this is what they're teaching our children in school. The kids are supposed to go to school to learn what they're supposed to learn. Not all this other stuff, because it doesn't belong in school. How is that going to help them in their life? Okay, Pete Buttigieg, we all know he's gay. Who cares? But he doesn't have to sit it there and put it off on kids, and he doesn't have to go out there and do what he does either. We all know he thinks he's going to be the next president of the United States in 2028. He's never going to make it. People, this is why I started my podcast. I have a job, but I try to wake up as many American people as I can before this country is too far gone. Trump is doing everything humanly possible to stop this, but everything he does is bad. Everything is bad. What's wrong with our country being back to the way it was? You're an illegal? Go in there like everybody. What makes them any better than anybody else? go through the front door, do the paper. What makes them any better? They go to jail. Sex crimes, murder, they get let back out on the street. People, an American goes to jail for a ticket. He ain't getting out till he posts bail. But that's what they're teaching these kids in school. So, thank you for clicking on the rant. Please subscribe. I can go on for days with this, people. But thank you for clicking on the rant. I really appreciate you guys. And if you can give me a push on that subscribe button and a thumbs up, I'd really appreciate you guys. See you next time.